You're not inconsistent. You just don't trust yourself anymore. And that's a much bigger problem than you think. Because this didn't start today. It started the first time you told yourself you'd change and didn't. And then you did it again and again. Until now, your own words don't even feel real to you. And the scary part is, no one else can see this happening. From the outside, you look normal. But internally, every small promise you break is quietly teaching your brain one thing: that you are not someone who follows through. And once that idea settles in, it doesn't just stay in your goals, it spreads into your confidence, your decisions, even your energy. You start feeling mentally tired for no clear reason. You hesitate more, you overthink simple things, and slowly, you begin to avoid even trying. Because somewhere deep down, you already expect yourself to fail. And here's the part most people never realize. This has nothing to do with discipline. It's something much deeper. And if you don't understand it now, this pattern won't just waste your time, it will quietly shape the kind of person you become. If you were actually lazy, you wouldn't care this much. And that's the part no one tells you. Lazy people don't sit there feeling guilty. They don't overthink at night. They don't get frustrated watching their own potential slip. So if you feel that tension inside you, that constant "I need to fix my life" voice, then laziness is not your problem. Something else is. Because the moment you try to change, notice what happens. You don't just stop. You drift. You delay. You suddenly feel tired, distracted, unfocused, like your own mind is quietly pulling you back. That's not weakness. That's programming. Your brain is built to avoid uncertainty, avoid discomfort, avoid anything unfamiliar. And growth is all three. So every time you try to become consistent, you're not just building a habit, you're fighting a system that's been trained for years to keep you exactly where you are. And the more you give in to that pull, the less it feels like a choice. Until one day, you're not deciding anymore. You're just repeating. You're not failing your habits. You're obeying your identity. And right now, your identity is working against you. Every time you try to be consistent, you step into a version of yourself you don't fully believe in yet. Disciplined, focused, reliable. For a moment, it feels real. Like maybe this time it sticks. You go all in for a few days, maybe even a week. You feel in control. Then something slips. One missed day, one delay, one small excuse that feels completely justified. That's all it takes. Not to fail, but to return. Here's the real problem. Your mind isn't chasing your goals, it's protecting what feels familiar. And for you, quitting is familiar. Restarting is familiar. Doubting yourself is familiar. So even when you move forward, there's friction. Something feels off, like you're forcing a version of yourself that hasn't caught up yet. That tension builds quietly. Then it wins. You don't crash, you drift. You skip once, then again. You tell yourself you'll fix it tomorrow. And just like that, you're back in the same place, watching your own life instead of living it. Not because you lack effort. Hard truth, your actions are trying to outrun your identity. That never works. And after enough cycles, something shifts. It stops feeling temporary. You don't just repeat the pattern, you become it. Every time you break your own word, something breaks with it. Not your goal, your self-trust. And once that starts slipping, everything else follows. Because confidence isn't built on motivation, it's built on proof. Proof that you do what you say. Now, look at what keeps happening. You get a burst of focus, you feel locked in, and then it fades. You delay. You disappear for a few days. And just like that, you've given your mind more evidence that you don't follow through. So the next time you try, hesitation shows up, overthinking shows up. Not because you can't do it, but because your mind isn't convinced you will. And this doesn't stay in your goals. It spreads. Your decisions feel heavier. Your focus drops faster. Your energy feels low even when you've done nothing. That's not laziness, that's conflict. One part of you wants to move forward. The other already expects you to fall back. And that tension drains you quietly every day. This is how burnout actually starts. Not from doing too much, but from constantly starting, stopping, and starting again.
And over time, something shifts. You stop aiming high. Not because you can't, but because you don't trust yourself to stay long enough to get there. So you stop trying. You don't quit your goals. Your brain quietly replaces them. Every time you try to focus, notice what happens. You sit down to do something that actually matters, and suddenly something pulls you away. Not loudly, subtly. A scroll, a notification, a quick escape that feels harmless, but is slowly rewiring what your brain wants. And that's the trap. You're not failing because you lack discipline. You're losing because comfort has become your default reward. So now, effort feels heavier than it should. Focus feels harder than it used to. Not because the work changed, but because your brain did. It's been trained to expect easy wins, fast stimulation, instant relief. And anything that doesn't give that, it starts to feel wrong. That's why you can spend hours consuming but struggle to create. Why you can stay locked into distractions but not into your own goals. One feeds you instantly, the other asks you to wait, and your brain always follows the reward. So every small choice matters more than you think. Every time you choose what's easy, you're not just avoiding effort, you're reinforcing a pattern where effort loses again and again until something shifts. You don't sit down and decide to quit. You don't make a clear choice to give up. You just keep choosing easier. And after a while, it doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels like you. And one day you realize you didn't suddenly fail, you just kept choosing easier until nothing hard felt possible. Every time you restart your goals, you're reinforcing the problem because it feels like progress. It feels like a reset, but it's not. It's the same cycle starting again. You open a fresh note, write a new plan, tell yourself this time it's different. And for a moment, it feels real. You're focused, clear, locked in. But that feeling was already fading when you started. And everything you built on top of it, it was built to collapse. That's the trap. You're not building consistency. You're chasing a feeling. And the moment that feeling drops, so do your actions. Not because the plan was bad, but because it depended on something unstable from the start. So what do? You wait. You wait to feel ready again, to feel motivated again, to feel like yourself again, so you can restart properly. But here's the shift most people never make. If you need motivation to act, you're not in control. You're reacting, which means your progress will always rise and fall with your emotions. And emotions don't stay. So you loop. You start strong. You lose momentum. You stop. Then you come back with a new plan, a new promise, a new version of this time, but nothing actually changed. It feels like a fresh start, but it's just the same cycle with a different beginning. If consistency never lasts for you, it's because you're building it the wrong way. You don't need more discipline, you need a different system. Right now, you're copying the actions of a consistent person without becoming one, and that's why it keeps breaking. You create a perfect plan, overload your day, try to fix your whole life in one go, and for a few days, it feels powerful, like you finally figure it out. But that version of you isn't sustainable, so it collapses. Not because you're incapable, but because you tried to build something heavy on an unstable base. Here's what actually changes everything. Consistency isn't built by doing more. It's built by doing less, but repeating it. Not intense actions, repeatable ones. Because what you repeat daily doesn't just build results, it builds identity. And identity is what makes consistency automatic. So instead of asking, how do I stay motivated? You ask, what is the smallest action I can do even on my worst day and still show up? That's where it starts. Because the goal isn't to feel powerful for a few days, it's to become reliable over time. And reliability comes from keeping promises so small you can't escape them. That's how you rebuild trust with yourself. That's how your identity shifts, not in big moments, but in the promises you keep when no one's watching. That's how you stop restarting.
And finally become someone who follows through. This was never just about consistency, it's about who you're becoming, because every day you're proving something to yourself, either that you can be trusted or that you can't. There's no neutral, it always counts. And if you're honest, you already know which side is winning. You felt it, that hesitation before you start, that quiet voice in the back of your mind saying, you'll probably stop again. That voice didn't appear randomly. You trained it. Every delay, every restart, Every time you chose easier, you built it. And that's uncomfortable, but it also means something powerful. If you built it, you can rebuild it. Because this isn't permanent, it's just repeated. And anything repeated can be replaced, not by thinking differently, not by planning better, but by showing up again and again in ways that are small but real. This is how you stop drifting back to comfort. This is how you stop waiting for motivation. This is how you finally become someone who follows through. Because 5 years from now, your life won't reflect what you wanted to do. It will reflect what you actually repeated. And if nothing changes, that future is already predictable. Same patterns, same stops, same frustration, just more time gone. So don't wait to feel ready. Start small, show up once, then again, and let that be the proof that you're not restarting this time. You're breaking the pattern that's been running your life.